Good morning. My name is Victor Esteban Gran from the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. As you know, both services, Joint Research Center and Research and the DG Research and Innovation, were working together in the preparation of the Euratom Research and Training Program. This work program is an important and crucial part of the effort of the EU for technological development and for promotion of excellence in nuclear research and innovation. The program aims to ensure the highest standard of safety, security, and safeguards in the nuclear field, and this includes radiation protection, of course. Among other activities, one of the objectives of the Euratom program is to improve and to support the nuclear safety and radiation protection, including the safe and secure use of nuclear power and non-power applications of ionizing radiation. In particular, the research on radiation protection has led to improvements in medical technologies from which many citizens benefit. The research can lead to improvements also in other sectors, such as industry, agriculture, or environment. Therefore, it continues being necessary to further research on non-energy applications of nuclear sciences and on radiation protection to allow the safe use of the radiation. But there are some associated challenges to that. For instance, all member states are using radioactive materials, not only in nuclear installations to produce energy, but also for medical purposes. Therefore, it is necessary to ensure the responsible and safe management of the spent fuel and radioactive waste. Moreover, when we are talking about different sources than nuclear fuel. Another challenge for this application of radioactivity is maintaining and developing the relevant competencies on the field. This requires continuing and reinforcing the Euratom education and training action, so the whole program is consistent as itself. Then, to achieve its objective of the Euratom program and to face the challenges that I mentioned before, as it has been already said this morning several times, the Euratom program should seek synergies. The need of obtaining these synergies to get the bigger impact of the program is even more evident when we are talking about medical and cross-sectoral applications. The work program, if you take a look, the work program 21-22 includes an annex that describes the infrastructure and expertise of the JRC. The aim is to improve the synergies between direct and indirect actions of the program. This included the infrastructure and the expertise of the JRC, and also the way to contact us to get more extensive information that is in the program. The main change that is in this program in relation with previous ones is that the JRC can participate in those projects where there is an added value for both the JRC and the consortium. But now we participate without requiring a budget contribution from the indirect actions of the program. That means that the JRC will cover the cost of the participation with its own budget. I have an example of the good collaboration between direct and indirect actions that is running currently. It's a running project that we will launch in 2020 to allow the open access to the JRC facilities, where JRC covers the cost of the facilities and staff. The JRC is covering its own cost, and the indirect actions of the program provide financial support to the users to came to for traveling and stay close to our laboratories. Then now to know better in detail the program for the years 21-22 in the field of radiation protection and on the non-energy applications of nuclear sciences, I will give the floor to my colleague from DG Research and Innovation, Karolina Janotkova. But before, I would like to remember that if you have questions, you can use a Slido to these questions. Thank you very much for your attention, and the floor, Karolina, is yours.
Thank you very much, Victor, for this introduction. Dear everybody, I would like to welcome you to our next session on radiation protection, medical and cross-sectorial applications. Can I please see my slides? Next one, please. So before starting to talk about our topics from the Euratom Work Program 2021-2022, I would like to just give you a brief introduction into the European Union policy on this area. We have the Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, which is the main priority in the area of health of the President von der Leyen Commission and a key pillar of a European Health Union. The EU's Cancer Plan makes several references to Horizon Europe health activities and to the Euratom program. In particular, the Euratom program will support research on the protection of patients benefiting from diagnostic and cancer therapies involving radiation sources. Next slide, please. The first deliverable under the Europe's Beating Cancer Plan is the Samira Initiative. Samira stands for Strategic Agenda for Medical Ionizing Radiation Applications. The action plan aims at maximizing the societal benefits of nuclear and radiation technologies, innovation and technological developments, ensuring the highest quality and safety standards of medical ionizing radiation applications. This Samira initiative has been developed together with different DGs, DG Energy, DG RTD, DG Sante, EAC, JRC, and the European Supply Agency. Next slide, please. Now I will start talking about the different topics under the Euratom Work Program 2021-2022. Let's start with topic 9, which is focused on European Partnership for Research in Radiation Protection and Detection of Ionizing Radiation. Both natural and man-made sources of ionizing radiation contribute to human exposure and constitute a hazard for human health. Exposure of the population to natural radiation is to some extent unavoidable, and growing medical use of radiation is now a pillar of a modern healthcare. Although much is known about the effects of exposure to ionizing radiation, considerable uncertainties and divergent views remain about the health effects at low doses. The radiation protection research of the first European framework program has started already in 1985 to 1989, which was based on the knowledge required in the event of a nuclear accident. The Chernobyl and Fukushima accidents increased the efforts in this area. The need to reduce uncertainty about the risks at low doses resulted in a more detailed inventory of research areas to be strengthened to future research. Research on low doses is today the subject of multilateral coordination led by the OECD International Energy Agency, which reinforces Euratom's guidelines. There has been a decline in scientific and regulatory expertise in radiobiology and radiotoxicology during the last decades, but increasing application of ionizing radiation in particular and medicine now stresses the need to revitalize the field and research capacity. All these aspects highlight the necessity to address these issues at a strategic level in Europe, and therefore the need of a European partnership on research in radiation protection. Radiation protection research funded under this partnership should provide solutions and recommendations for protecting people and the environment from the potentially harmful effects of ionizing radiation. Next slide, please. In particular, the partnership should address improved risks estimates of the optimization of exposure to radiation in order to support the implementation of the basic safety standards directives, advancing beyond the state-of-the-art understanding of dose and dose rate relationships, developing a knowledge base for the major features of variability in the radiation response, radiosensitivity, radiosusceptibility, and radiodegeneration. Furthermore, advancing integrative radiobiology from basic mechanisms to clinic and epidemiology, providing a scientific basis and establishment of priorities for medical applications of ionizing radiation, development of science base for improving radiation protection, procedures and tools improving emergency and preparedness response, improvement of radiological monitoring of the environment, reinforcing training for research in the field radiation protection and facilitating access to research infrastructure, and of course, improving public engagement in radiation risks and protection measures. In conclusion, a multidisciplinary approach to research and innovation is needed to further develop the knowledge base regarding risks from low dose of radiation. Factors of gender and age will have to be addressed as part of research on individual sensitivity, susceptibility and degenerative fragility to radiation. Implementation of this partnership would require a cooperation of the entire European research community concerned in order to exploit synergies between different scientific disciplines. This implies the possible involvement of all research institutions and universities, from fundamental and applied research to human and social sciences. The partnership would need to take account of present state of knowledge and priorities identified in the strategic research agenda of MELODY, which is focused on low-dose radiation, Alliance, focused on radioecology, Euratom, focused on dosimetry, NERIS, focused on nuclear emergency preparedness, and Euramet, medical exposures. Furthermore, SHARE, social sciences and humanities, and the SNETP forum. In order to deliver targeted outcomes, the partnership will build on and further develop the research priorities identified by the European Joint Programme for the Integration of Radiation Protection Research, EGP concert in the Joint Roadmap. The partnership would also need to take into account the Euratom Scientific and Technical Committee opinion on the research roadmap and the Samira Initiative. Synergies across programs such as Horizon Europe, Health Cluster, and the proposed mission on cancer should be explored. In addition, the partnership will ensure the availability of and facilitate access of the state-of-the-art research infrastructures required to implement the research roadmap. Finally, the partnership will develop competencies in radiological protection with a special focus on radiological protection culture by communicating results in radiological protection to non-specialist audiences such as policy decision makers and the public at large. Next slide, please. Now let's move to topic 10, which is focused on safe use and reliable supply of medical radionuclides. The medical radioisotopes are utilized in a wide range of diagnostic procedures. Also, therapeutic applications are developing rapidly, paving the way for personalized and targeted therapies. From the patient's perspective, radiation is present in every step from diagnosis through treatment to monitoring of long-term outcomes. As medical radioisotopes move from diagnosis towards therapy with the development of so-called theranostics, their reliable and safe supply is becoming more and more essential. Targeted radionuclides therapy, including alpha and beta therapy, is a promising approach for the treatment of cancer. Several alpha and beta emitting isotopes have demonstrated effectiveness in preclinical studies and clinical trials so far. Theranostic compounds are likely to impact cancer patients in the near future through improvements in the quality of life, but also in terms of survival. Reliable availability of alpha and beta emitting radionuclides must be therefore ensured to treat patients, but also to enable investigation of feasibility of targeted radionuclide therapies. The proposed research action would address the lack of consistent supply of medical radioisotopes, which is a major barrier for further research, clinical trials, and clinical use. The topic will contribute to Samira Initiative and the European Plan to Fight Cancer, which is part of the President's von der Leyen political guidelines that I've mentioned already in the beginning of my presentation. Nuclear medicine will have the potential to bring tremendous benefits to patients through advances in medical imaging and treatments. Next slide, please. In particular, actions should cover the development of innovative production routes to therapeutic and diagnostic radionuclides. Furthermore, development of optimized irradiation targets that are interchangeable to allow use within the whole EU supply network, and prioritizing production with raw and source materials which are available and sustainable for the European Union. Recommendations for implementing clinical trials involving radiopharmaceuticals, including the development of individual-specific organ dosimetry for the therapeutic applications. Last but not least, adequate supply of radioisotopes for further research, clinical trials, and clinical use with full implementation of radiation protection measures and with reduction of costs along the whole supply chain. The research would finally contribute to the reliable supply of radioisotopes for further research, clinical trials, and clinical use. Proposed actions should be complementary to the co-funded European Partnership for Research in Radiation Protection under the topic 9 of this work program. Let's move to the next slide, please. So topic 11 is focused on cross-sectoral synergies and new applications of nuclear technologies. This is also extremely relevant to implement innovation beyond technology. We need to bring together research stakeholders, academia, industry, and users from cross-sectoral nuclear and non-nuclear technology areas when using ionizing radiation for European industry and European citizens. To bring these benefits and opportunities, stimulating innovation based on EU safety culture and know-how. Next slide, please. We expect the demonstration of concepts and applications of nuclear and radiation technologies going beyond their traditional areas of implementation and exploring their market potential. Furthermore, the demonstration of application of innovative technologies available from non-nuclear sectors for improving nuclear safety and safe applications of ionizing radiation. Last but not least, the demonstration of an added value to cross-sectoral products, standards, and/or services in which ionizing radiation technologies are embedded. Next, please. Now let's have a look at the next steps. You can go to the next slide. So the calls have opened for submission on 7th of July, exactly last Friday, and the deadline for applications is the 7th of October. Then we will perform the evaluations in October, November, and the information to the applicants will be shared in February 2022. We hope to have the signatures of grant agreements beginning of summer next year, May, June 2022. Next slide, please. As was already mentioned in Roger's presentation, we have some events that are coming up. In November, there's going to be the Nested conference organized by ENS with possible participation of Commissioner Gabriel. At the end of the year, there will be the World Nuclear Exhibition, still foreseen to take place in Paris, but let's see how the COVID situation in the world will develop and if we will be able to travel again. And for next year, we have a big announcement. The FISA Euradwaste 2022 conference will take place with the French presidency in May or June next year. Next slide, please. And I would like to conclude with a quote from our Commissioner Maria Gabriel, that thanks to Euratom, Europe will maintain world leadership in fusion, nuclear safety, radiation protection, waste management and decommissioning, safeguards and security with the highest level of standards. And on that note, I would like to finish my presentation. There is just one last slide, if you can please show it. Yeah, thank you for your attention. Thank you for participating to this session. I hope that you've enjoyed it and you will stay with us for the rest of the day. If you have any questions that might not have been answered previously or in this session, here you can see the RTD Euratom functional mailbox for the info day, where you can of course send us the message in written and we will of course reply to your queries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carolina, for your interesting presentation. I would like to ask you a question that I have on the collaboration with the cancer beating plan. How do you envisage to make this collaboration happen between the both parts?
So the collaboration will be organized between the different DGs, as I already mentioned in my presentation, between us, DG Energy, also with the Joint Research Center, that means with you, with DG EAC, and with the Euratom Supply Agency. But on concrete steps, I would like to ask my colleague Roger if he could reply what is concretely foreseen under the Samira Initiative.
Yeah, as mentioned, we have already the dedicated actions, which are these, the partnerships, the dedicated topic number 11, if I'm correct. So these are concrete steps, projects or partnerships that are contributing to this. And of course, we will look maybe into further possibilities through the Euratom research activities, and be it through the partnership again, or maybe some further actions.
Thank you. I don't see any question on the slide for the time being. We have a big amount of participants on the session. I don't know if all the questions were, the first session was quite intense on the question and answers part. Probably you did very well and you answered all the questions.
Maybe I was so comprehensive that there are no questions now.
Also,
this is also very possible. Okay, we have a question that is on the networks. The proposals regarding topic 9 will be directly linked to the existing networks, Melody, Euratom, Alliance.
I don't think the proposals need to be directly linked to the former projects, but they should definitely build upon the knowledge and the priorities identified in the strategic research agenda of these projects. I don't know if Roger would like to complement.
Yeah, no, just to confirm, again, we are capitalizing our activities, including in the field of radiation protection. So there are existing networks, and like we mentioned here, Alliance, Euratom, NERIS, Euramed, the share for social science. We have also the need to cooperate with SNETP. So there are some novelties here also. So we have to build up on what has been achieved today in the framework of CONCERT, but also several parallel projects. And now let's try to do even more, better and more efficiently. So any, let's say, any valuable contribution which have been also identified in the strategic research agenda of the future activities, then they are very welcome, and any participant can contribute for sure.
Okay, I have another question. You mentioned the topic 9 mentions detection of ionizing radiation. Can you explain what do you expect on this question, detection of ionizing radiation?
Well, again, do I have to reply? Yeah, okay. So again, this field of radiation protection is related to low dose effects of ionizing radiations. And this means not only the consequences of these ionizing radiations in any of the fields that we are talking about. This can be in the, let's say, in the framework of industrial applications, but also in the framework of health or any other type of environments where we have the use of ionizing radiations. And this means, of course, that the detection means if we need to improve, and if we have some innovations also related to the detections of these ionizing radiations and their effects, any development, any innovation is of course covered within the partnership.
Okay, thank you. About the collaboration with medical applications, are clinical trials eligible on the topic 11, that is cross-sectorial synergy and new applications of nuclear technologies? Are clinical trials also included?
Yes, we do not exclude any field concerning this innovation beyond technology, as we can label it. So Euratom is covering all the different areas, be it for industrial applications, reactor systems, waste management, but also radiation protection, medical applications, etc. So if there is clearly, let's say, a nice proposal and something to show that is benefiting both the nuclear community and the non-nuclear community as such, then it is, of course, eligible, and we would welcome such a proposal. So it is, again, a very wide scope where we try to identify several, let's say up to 5 projects which will benefit the community, the nuclear community and the non-nuclear community. So it can be both sides, vice versa.
Yeah, this would be a good example of obtaining synergies between both parts of the program, the nuclear and the non-nuclear.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There is another question on clinical audits in radiology, radiotherapy, etc. Samira, there is some news about that. Do you know anything about
that? Personally, I don't have, let's say, the materials here. So I would, let's say, I would suggest that we reply in written to this one. I'm not aware of these activities today.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next question is the specific calls for centers of excellence in Euratom. They ask if there will be in Euratom specific calls for these centers of excellence, or they will remain generic. Yeah.
No, the question means centers of excellence of infrastructures as such. Again, for the if I understand correctly the request, of course, we want to build a European research area. Of course, we want to have centers of excellence which are related to our, let's say, R&D activities. So if we can create this throughout Europe and benefit from the synergies between different participants or research organizations or even industrial partners or universities, etc., yes, they would be welcome, but there is no specific call as such. We have dedicated actions here related to infrastructures, for example, topic 12 or 13, I have to check. We have dedicated actions within the joint partnerships. So the partnerships also have their own, let's say, usually dedicated action related to infrastructures, access to infrastructures, developing a center of excellence. So yes, it is covered, but we don't have any specific topic for that as such, in addition to what is already there.
Next question is about the topic 11. The topic 11 was here. Okay. They say that seems to be very much focused on air. Then there are other cross-sectoral topics also eligible.
Yeah, I think the wording is maybe misleading, or maybe the positioning is also misleading, because if you put it in the reactor system sections, I would say in the first session that I presented, they would say, it is supposedly to be related to reactor system. Does it apply to radiation protection? If you put it in radiation protection, they would say, does it apply to reactor systems, etc. So it is a cross-sectoral topic, innovation beyond technology. So this means whatever you want to show from the nuclear sector or from outside of the nuclear sector, if there are benefits that can be, let's say, showing innovations that are clearly there as to be supported through this action, then they are welcome. So it is much wider. It covers other application of nuclear. This can be, for example, hydrogen. It can be space applications. It can be medical. It can be artificial intelligence. It can be robotics, whatever, computing. If there are clearly, let's say, some very innovative actions that can be supported, then we would welcome such proposal.
This one is linked to a question that we had before. How is the Euratom program on cancer linked with the health program?
Well, on cancer, again, I think here you have to know, again, there are some somehow some activities to be supported through Euratom, but there are also some supported by non-Euratom. Clearly, for Euratom, it is stated we are here to support also the wealth and the health of the citizens. And if we need, for example, radioisotopes today for let's say the diagnosis of any type of cancer, you are benefiting many times from the radioisotopes that are produced within research reactors. So Euratom is clearly involved in this concerning, for example, the secure supply of medical radioisotopes when it comes to diagnosis today, molybdenum, technetium, and etc., etc. But it is not only restricted to this. We have, let's say, our contribution in relation to this. So it means the reactor systems, the development of the fuel, for example, to ensure the secure supply of radioisotopes, but also the techniques, and there are innovative techniques and technologies taking place, for example, for the accelerated technology, where you can develop also or produce some dedicated radioisotopes, which can be very innovative when it comes to dedicated targeted cancer, for example. So the links is, I would say, a share of responsibilities, if I can say like this, related to the Euratom, let's say, treaty. I can say Annex 1 of the Euratom treaty, but this has evolved. And there are also responsibilities for the non-nuclear part. So both are complementing each other. And I think with the evolution of technology, of science, and the need for cross-cutting synergies, we need to cooperate in this. And of course, we are aware of the capabilities when it comes to budget. You have a health work program, for example, I checked, I think it's around 350 million euros for this year, which is amazing as compared to our little 50 million euros for Euratom covering all the different areas. So we have to be also realistic in how much can be achieved. But again, sometimes a little contribution can have a very high, let's say, benefit for the other. So the synergies should be there, and we should try to make them happen one way or the other.
It looks like the cancer plan is a hot topic, and you have to deal with the repartition of the budget. Okay, next question is the topic 9, that is how is expected to facilitate the access to infrastructures? Could the budget be used for upgrading this or maintaining this infrastructure? Yes, of course. We are already doing it. They already did it in the frame of concert. There was also a dedicated project. I forgot the name that was dedicated to this, but of course the partnership should take care of this because when you are doing R&D, when you are training also some masters, some PhDs, when you have to do experiments, you need to have access to infrastructures and to enable this access one way or the other. So this is, of course, also enabling the exchange of researchers, the possibility to try to use the best infrastructure in the best place. So the best experiments for the infrastructure also that could be the best, and that could be also available for that type of experiments or that type of, let's say, generating data that are useful. But it can be also other type of infrastructures, and we don't mention it enough, but here this is a case, access to dedicated databases when it comes to population cohorts, etc., etc. This is also considered for me as infrastructures enabling data exchange and cooperation in support to this partnership. Okay, thank you. If you allow me to complement, I was explaining the access to the JRC infrastructures. That is a very good example of collaboration between the indirect and direct actions of the program. We had there is a delay because of the COVID, because obviously we want to have physical access, but it's a wonderful success story, let's say. I think the community should clearly look at this aspect. You can have resources available in another country or another place, or even closer to where you are. You have the facility, but you don't have enough experiments or you don't have enough resources. So
Europe can really play a role here, and this is what we show, for example, for the GRC. You have the facilities, okay, let's try to make it happen. You get regularly staff to be able to do the experiments that are priorities for R&D for the community. And then your role will be to make these facilities available for the community. This is really a European approach to infrastructures.
Exactly. I don't know if we have any more questions. Looks like we don't have any other. Then probably we'll. There is another one.
Must say,
sorry?
No, I was reading the question.
Okay. Okay, they say that when the Samira calls for proposals on the medical applications, when will Samira issue calls for proposals on the medical applications ionizing radiation?
Personally, I'm not, let's say, fully aware if there will be dedicated calls for this. We will have dedicated actions for sure for Euratom. If we can contribute through the work program and the next call, for example, or not, this will be the case. Maybe a colleague could complement if they are aware of dedicated calls coming up. And I suppose that will be highly supported by our colleagues from DG Santé.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Victor. If I can just intervene concretely, more and more there is collegiality at the Commission level. If you look at the Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, you see both Euratom activities and health activities. And what we try really to do is to work together to see where, what I call in French, le balancier. If it's more on nuclear, we go to Euratom. If it's more on health, it is on the health program. This afternoon, we will have a very interesting session, which I strongly recommend you to participate, on artificial intelligence and robotics in the nuclear sector, where one of our health colleagues will chair the session. I think that we try really to put collegiality as the main items, that it should not be one program versus another program, but we work together in the strategic document. And when you see the Commission communication, Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, you clearly see that when you have different actions, different calls, we are working together on this very important issue. Thank you.
Thank you, America. I have another question on the deadline. They say that the deadline is too short. The deadline is for 7th of October, and it's 3 months for the preparation of the call.
Just a quick comment. Yes, we agree, and no, we disagree. Yes and no. Yes, we are fully aware. No, I'm sorry, but we are fully aware of this issue. Everything should have happened much earlier. So we are, let's say, we apologize for the delay. This was not, let's say, the way we wanted it to happen. But again, things have been, I think, somehow shared, like I mentioned in the previous session, within the community. I think a lot of exchanges have taken place. Everything has been discussed with the member states also with a certain, let's say, to a certain extent. And yes, today, between the publication date and the deadline, it is only 3 months. But we are really convinced that the discussions, the preparations are not happening within 3 months. I think they were already resulting from, let's say, the integration of all the results that have been achieved, all the let's say, the potential possibilities that could take place now. And this should be the result, let's say, as a result, some good proposal. But we agree to have the final text only today is a bit late as compared to have it, for example, 6 months before the deadline.
Yeah. Again, something on the clinical trials. How will the recommendation for implementing clinical trials be implemented in the calls? I think more or less you answered already.
I think so. Yeah. Again, If there is a need for further clarification, I would say please send it by written, and then we will carefully reply to it.
Yeah, okay. This is a, can one project proposal access funds from two separate areas? And we say the NT1, 2, or 3, or an NT11, if the project delivers results in two areas.
Again, we say that if you are looking, for example, for infrastructures, let's take this example: access to infrastructures. The partnership, I think, should have in its objectives let's say a work package or a dedicated action to deal with this. If the partnership is taking care of it to a large extent, it can also benefit from, for example, another action on infrastructures. That is another topic, and they can complement each other. So complement the activities between different areas. This is still possible, but you have to be aware that you could succeed in one and maybe not in the other one. So you have to be aware that if you win in both, it means for sure that the activities have to complement each other and not duplicate. So you should not, you will not be able to duplicate and get double funding, for example. This will not be the case. So recommendation, clearly look at it, try to find some complementing activities, but then be aware that it will depend also on the success of a proposal or not. If you are successful, that works. If not, then maybe you could have prepared it in a different way.
Yeah. And we are talking here about one project proposal, one single project proposal. Yes. Okay. If we don't have any other question, we can stop here. And the next session is on education and training and research infrastructures, where we will have more information about that. And it's in 3 minutes just.
I would like to thank Carolina also.
Yeah,
a very good presentation.
It was an interesting presentation from Carolina.
Thank you very much, Victor, for the introduction, and thank you very much, Roger, for answering to all those questions, and to you, Domenico, as well. And if there are any questions left, don't hesitate to come to us via email. That was at the end of my presentation. We will, of course, reply in written form.
With more details and more deeply answered. Yes.